My first video talking about Merida, Mexico and our experiences in the state of Yucatan was August 5th of 2020. And as we come up on that video's 5th year anniversary, what I'd like to talk about are some of the things that have changed, some of the things that maybe have remained the same, and some of which, little column A, little column B. My name is Alexander Howell. Welcome to the channel, and let's run the intro. So the first thing I want to bring up is the exchange rate. Now, why is that the first thing? Well, part of the reason is because throughout COVID and a lot of the other things that have happened, the peso to dollar ratio has changed a little bit. And I actually made a short, which I'll put up here somewhere, but that short showed kind of how we do the easy conversion when I'm just trying to figure out exactly how much I'm paying for something when it's listed at pesos to dollars. Now, if you go to that video, you'll notice that there are some people that have a lot of comments that it changed during the last 5 years. That's how foreign exchange works, and I wish all those people the best. But I just looked today and it is back to almost the exact same thing that it was 5 years ago. And basically what that is let's say you have 1,000 peso purchase. I knock off the end 0, which is 100, and then I divide it by 2, which is 50. So 1,000 pesos is normally going to be about $50. Now, in the last 5 years, that's shifted, but as of today, it's almost exactly that. It really works for just if you're going through a market or something like that, trying to figure out how many pesos to get out of your pocket. It's easy. If you're used to the US dollar, go through that little calculation and boom, you got your answer. Okay, now that we got something that was the same and we're coming back to it, let's talk about something that I hear every single time in every single video I make, no matter what the video is about, and that has to do with how prices have changed. Specifically in real estate, because I talk a lot about our house and the rental market and things of this nature. So let's talk about that real quick. Now, just throwing it out there, and I talked about this in the video last week just a little bit, but housing prices have definitely increased. We noticed that when we purchased our house that was in horrific disrepair, and then as we went through the design and building process. When we got everything done, signed the contract, and we were ready, that's when a lot of the prices were locked in. But just like anything else, if you change anything along the way, you upgrade, you downgrade, whatever it might be, you'll notice that prices have increased. Well, we were doing this right during the pandemic, so prices weren't just increasing, they were increasing fast. Things weren't available as they had been before. And if you're building now, that problem where things aren't available has become a lot better, but the prices have increased and probably won't ever go back down to where they were before. I also mentioned this in the last video. It's not just gringos, and I hear this from people that are on the ground, that are locals, that deal with locals all the time. The issue with price increases, if you're talking about a population increase, has a lot more to do with individuals that are moving from other parts of Mexico into Merida. Now, gringos definitely are buying houses down there, looking like me, and that's okay, as long as they're doing it lawfully and with the right purpose of making sure that they're moving into an area to become a part of it, not to change it. And I've talked about that on a multitude of videos, and I don't want to get into that now, but needless to say, there are a lot of contributing factors to the amount of houses that are being built, the price of those houses being built, and exactly how they're kind of configured and done. But let's not forget too that this happened everywhere. Market prices in my hometown of Kansas City have gone significantly up to the point where I actually divested all of my investment real estate because I just couldn't get over the numbers. Now, that probably cost me some money because prices have continued to increase, but it reminded me a lot of something that happened in 2008, 2009, and I wasn't really comfortable at the time. Now, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. I don't really care to know at this point. What I do know is that when I hear people complain about prices in one area, I try to say, look at everywhere, because they definitely increased there too. And inflation was a real big thing. I mean, that is just absolute fact. It costs more to make a product, it costs more to transport a product, and therefore the prices are going to go up. Even if prices go down a little bit, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see that price go down to what it was before. It might just mean that they're going to collect a little bit more profit. That's just the reality of the situation, like it or not. And the other part of that when houses are more expensive is that renting is more expensive. If a housing market goes up, normally that means in correlation to the housing prices going up, they need to make more money off of rent. If someone is charging more rent in one area, that means that the people that are next door, even if their houses aren't as developed as the one that is now charging a lot for rent, they might be able to charge more and more and more too. And that has definitely happened. It'll take you only 5 seconds on a Facebook group about Merida expats to realize that rental prices have increased everywhere. Now, here's the good news and bad news. One, this is in a way kind of a gringo issue. Now, that doesn't mean that other Mexican nationals are not renting different places, but it does mean that a lot of people see gringos coming forward and know that they're probably going to be able to get a little bit more money out of them per month. So one of the things I always suggest is make sure that if you're dealing with somebody, make sure that they are on the ground, that they're every day, and especially if you can can find a local who has been in the market for a long time. They may have better connections coming from them than if you approach somebody directly. Now, this isn't some type of huge negative thing. This is just the way the world works. If somebody thinks that they're going to be able to get more money out of you, they're probably going to try to do that. But in negotiation, it can help a lot if you have somebody local to do all of the legwork for you. You pay them for their service and you get something that you can handle the rent on. So basically, if you're using Airbnb or a corporate website, that's fine. As long as you're comfortable paying the amount, that's great. That's a capitalist transaction. But if you have somebody local that you know that might be able to find you a slightly better deal, call them first. And I still believe that renting before ownership is important for those people who are trying to figure out where they're going to move next or where they want to be in the city. So the number one thing that I would tell every single person, because I think I've said number one about 15 times already in this video, is just be patient. There's always going to be a deal out there. Be patient, find as many areas as you can, get as many feelers out there as you can, and when you find the right place, it's going to be the right one for you. Now, next is food prices, and this is one that I'm very passionate about because I hear a lot of people talk about how food prices have gone up significantly. And there's no doubt, and again, this is everywhere. In the United States, it's the whole political conversation right now to talk about the price of eggs. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, or don't care. Somehow you can get everybody in a Facebook feed super mad if you just mention that the price of eggs have gone up or gone down. Now, in Mexico, the price of eggs still remains down, which is fantastic because I eat a lot of them, so it's going to work out a lot better for me. But this is kind of one that I want to handle in two different ways. The first is if you go out to eat. Now, if you go out to eat, prices definitely seem to have increased, but the last time we were down, it was not as significant if we went to some of the smaller places that we're used to going. You know, those kind of local, off the beaten path places that you really enjoy because they have cold beer, great food, you get to relax, enjoy the actual neighborhood, and you don't feel like it's a more corporate experience. So I would say if you're really worried and concerned about the amount of money that you're spending as you're going out to eat, definitely find those places. The prices may have increased a little bit to keep up with inflation and the market and everything else, but when I'm down there, I don't notice it near as much as when I go to some of the more popular areas, which makes sense. If it's in a popular area like Paseo de Montejo or Paseo 60, it's probably going to cost more because the rent is more expensive, the building might be newer, so on and so forth. So the lesson is, if you really want to cut down on the expense of going out to eat, find those small hole-in-the-wall places and don't go to Crabster and Oliva every single night, unless you want to, because those places are awesome. But if I sneak over to El Templo, which is close to my house and close to Parque de la Maharata, I'm also going to be pretty dang happy. Now, the second thing on this issue to talk about is purchasing food that is for your home. This one should be very obvious. If you go to Soriana, Bodega Herrera, if you're ordering Costco, or if you go to Sam's Club or Walmart, there are going to be things that are just more expensive because that's a corporate environment. Now, they have purchasing power, which is obviously a positive thing, but you will find that if you're purchasing from smaller areas, like say, for us, it's the Chenbeck Market, which is just down the street. If you purchase from places like that, you're going to find fruits, vegetables, some cuts of meat, things like that are going to be cheaper than if you order them from Costco. Now, what I have found is that sometimes that means that they're not the bright green and yellow and reds vegetables or fruits that you'll find in other places. Sometimes they are, most of the time they are, but just saying, not every time are you going to find something that's brand name store perfect in a local market. But that being said, you can also go to a tortilleria, you can go to your local carne shop, you can go to all different kinds of smaller places, invest in the community rather than a corporate giant, and probably pay a little bit less. Now, this isn't always the case. There's a place in Chenbeck Market where we get like fresh flowers and stuff like that. Flowers are not inexpensive, but I like to be able to go there and pay that because I know that it is going to that individual or to their family or whoever it might be. Just not a big corporate interest, which is one of those things. But if you're constantly complaining about food prices and you're just going to Costco and Walmart all the time, I would say branch out. Take a nice little walk around your neighborhood. See if there's a little place here and there where you can pick up, say, a whole rotisserie chicken like we did, and with that and the fixins and everything else, it was, basically USD $5 to probably a little bit more now. But it was still very inexpensive compared to what it would be if I ran down to, our local market here is like Price Chopper in Kansas City. If I went down to Price Chopper, I'm going to pay more than if I went to a smaller place. Same exact thing there, kind of like the rental prices and housing prices. Just remember, if you put a little bit of legwork into trying to find better pricing, you're probably going to be rewarded with better pricing. But that's not always the case. Just do some comparison, bring some coupons, do whatever you can. But really take a look around, make sure that you shop smart. And I promise you, even though prices have increased, a little bit better. And just to end the video, one thing that I will say is that I don't hear a lot of people complain about this because these are more want items as opposed to need items. But I do hear people saying like, what's the price of this if I get it in Merida? Or what's the price of this if I'm trying to find it in a Progresso? Electronics, things like that, just try to bring, that's been my experience, is is that it's just a little bit more difficult to find, or if it's not difficult to find, then it can be a little bit more expensive, which makes sense. But it's been a really easy transition with stuff like that, especially if you have people that are visiting you, if you're down there full time, or if you go back and forth. You just make a checklist of the things that you want. Boom, you got it when you need it. But electronics, internet, televisions, all those kind of things, obviously televisions are electronics, but you get my drift. Some things are just going to be more expensive in different areas, similar to eggs up here right now and eggs in Mexico now. And a Wi-Fi system is a thing that you'll need once as opposed to every day like eggs. But overall, guys, let me know in the comments what you think I missed, because I'm sure there are a bunch of things, but also try to keep it positive. I know that sometimes we get a little bit frustrated because US and Mexico are having some conversations right now, but the fact of the matter is that if you're on this channel, you're watching this video, 99 times out of 100, it's because you love both places, or if you're from Canada, you love there too. But our governments are talking to each other in a super fun way right now. So let's just ignore that and actually talk about the things that are positive between all of us, which are the people that really enjoy all of these places and put their time, money, and effort into being on all of them. And if you like that, my name is Alexander Howell. I didn't really do this before, but this is my channel. We talk about Merida, we talk about Progresso, we talk about real estate, and all kinds of travel stuff in there as well. My family and I purchased a place in Merida in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, renovated it through our architect, Henry Ponce, and it was an incredible experience. And if you want to know any more about that or have a personal question for it, leave it in the comments down below. Please feel free to like this video. And if you really enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, let you know anytime that one of my videos pops up. You'll notice that haven't had one for a bit outside of last week, but 2 weeks in a row, we're going to continue to do it now that I'm back in action. I also have a bunch of contact information down below, including a phone number, email, stuff like that. So if you want to contact me directly, that's about as easy as it gets. But guys, thank you so much for being here through this whole video. And as always, peace.